We all have a story. Your story is not my story, and my story is not yours. However, we can find joy, hope, and emotional healing even through our most painful moments in life. Let's walk and take this journey of healing together, one step at a time, because your story does not define you.
Hey, God's beautiful people. It's Dr. Niesha here, and welcome back to Your Story Does Not Define You, the podcast. It has been a beautiful Sunday today. I got the opportunity to go to church this morning and, spend some time with my family after church. And then I just finished watching a beautiful movie with my little nieces and nephews. I love auntie time, and I have to spend time with my nieces and nephews. So we went to go see Mufasa, and it was a beautiful movie. So that is like my highlight of the day. It's a beautiful Sunday day. So just glad to be here in the land of the living. It is officially 2025, y'all. And God has blessed us to be here in the land of the living. Look, y'all, we made the cut once again. To God be the glory. What a blessing. So if this is your first time joining me on this podcast, I would like to say welcome. Thank you so much for joining in and tuning in with Your Story Does Not Define You, the podcast. I encourage you to follow me, to share, send this podcast to a friend, send this episode to a friend, because remember, we are just telling our stories. We're sharing stories because look, y'all, life be life, and we all have been through something and going through something, but we definitely want to make sure that we know that any and every season and any and everything that we have been through and that we go through, that we can get through it because God has us. So y'all already know what's coming. What's your vibe today? Because remember, y'all, we got to check our temperature every day and check our vibe for the day. And remember, if your vibe is not vibing for you, you got to change, you got to shift, you got to change up that energy if you have to. So for me today, my vibe has been grateful. Since the new year have started, I've definitely been very intentional about my gratitude journal, writing the 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. My highlight of the day, like I mentioned earlier, was spending time with my nieces. I love to have auntie time with my nieces and my nephews. So my vibe today is grateful. So pretty excited about that. So today, y'all, I have a guest with me in the building, and let me tell y'all, you are in for a treat and a wonderful conversation about a beautiful woman who has agreed to join me today. And so today, y'all, I have a woman in here with me named Maxine Henry, who I'm super excited about. She is an amazing woman, y'all. So let me tell you a little bit about her, but I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself. And she over here shy, but Maxine, I want you to make sure you toot your horn and tell the people about you. So Miss Maxine Henry is a licensed evangelist. She is a pension plan administrator as her profession. She is a new author, y'all. Yay! And I have started reading her book, and so far it is so good and so amazing. So I cannot wait until she talks to you about her book. She is also a teacher. She's an evangelist, like I mentioned, and she preaches and teaches the word of God. She's an amazing teacher. I've heard her preach so many different times. I've heard her teach so many different times, and the Lord has truly favored her and has anointed her. So y'all, I want y'all to welcome Miss Maxine Henry. Hey, Maxie.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it is a blessing. So Maxine, I got to ask all my guests the question, girl. What is your vibe today?
Vibe today is rest.
Yes.
Oh my God. It is absolutely rest. I'm learning how to take time to rest.
Yes, amen. Rest is good, girl. I'm trying. I haven't quite got there completely, but I definitely have improved because I used to be really bad about taking time out and just sitting still and being still and not doing nothing. But I've gotten better, so to God be the glory.
To God be the glory.
Amen.
Thank God for progress.
That's right. So, Maxine, okay, so I want you to tell the podcast land about who you are. You have such a powerful story of overcoming, and God has truly shined his light upon you and brought you from a mighty long way. So can you tell the people a little bit about you, girl?
Well, I'm just me. Like you mentioned, yes, I am an evangelist, and I have been a licensed evangelist for about 8 or so years now.
Okay, good.
I do work in the accounting field as a pension administrator. I'm currently studying to become the director.
Okay,
Yay.
Director, come through, director.
Come through, director. And that's a blessing in and of itself, because the way that I grew up, it did not, the environment wasn't fostered for education.
Okay.
So I had to find other ways to gear my mind up to get out of the thinking that I was taught.
Okay.
And, get my mind into a different space so that I can grow and go where God has ultimately called for me to be.
Right.
So with that, I said that because I didn't graduate high school.
Okay.
So for all of those who are listening to the podcast who didn't graduate high school, it's okay.
That's
GED
right.
is good enough.
It is.
I am a college graduate.
Amen.
I am married. I am a
Amen.
mom. I am a grandmother. And the Lord definitely has his hand on my life. So
Amen. I love
that's a
that.
little bit about me.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what, Maxine, I am so glad that you shared that.
Yeah.
Because, again, a lot of people do equate success to education. And don't get me wrong, education is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
However, some of the most successful people in the world do not have a college education.
Right.
And so, but I'm glad that you have a college
And just
education,
got it.
girl. That's all
And
right.
just got it, okay?
That's all right. That's all right. It's never too late,
It's
right?
never too late.
Never too late. I
Never
know
too
a lot
late.
of people that recently have graduated from college that are older. I started college at a young age, and I had to put a pause on it because I had kids, and then I picked it up, and the Lord has let me, get through it successfully.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you shared that.
Amen.
So Maxine, you just recently wrote a book, like I mentioned.
Yes.
The title of the book is called You Shall Overcome.
Yes, ma'am.
And can you please just share with us a little bit about your book and what motivated you to write that book?
Well, the book is it's a portion of my story, a
Okay.
portion of how I grew up. One thing that I experienced that triggered a whole bunch of other events.
Okay.
Mindsets, character flaws, personality deficits in my life. And so that's what the book is about. It's essentially about being a voice for the voiceless, for those whose voice has been taken as a result of trauma. In my case, it was molestation.
Okay.
And having to deal with that aspect and everything that comes along with it. So what the Lord has graced me to do is write this book from a standpoint of not one who is still bound by what comes along with that, but one who has overcome everything associated with it.
Wow, I love
and
that.
so with that was the motivation. Just, somebody out there has experienced what I experienced and maybe experienced a little bit more, but they have been silenced. They have been silenced by the what happens in this house stays in this house. They have been silenced by the don't tell our business. They have been silenced by shame. They have been silenced by guilt. And that was me for quite some time. However, when God calls you out of the closet, you got to come out.
You gotta come out. You gotta come out.
God has done. And so, I feel Jesus. And so that's why I wrote the book.
Come on, Holy Ghost.
Jesus. And that's why I wrote the book. It was time.
Yes,
it
good.
was time.
I absolutely love that. And one of the things that you said just a minute ago, as a therapist, I have heard so many times that, what goes on this house stays in this house, right? And so as a trauma therapist, I have seen over and over again that the cycles keep repeating because people don't talk and people don't share, and they don't talk about what was going on in the house and how somebody in the house, was doing things to them that weren't welcomed, or how maybe they experienced something, they witnessed something that was going through with another family member. So it's very common in a lot of cultures for people to be quiet, right? And keep it on a hush. And then even some cultures, people normalize it, where you see like a parent molesting a child or something like that. So it does help to talk and have conversations, and definitely want to go into that a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So in your book, you talk about your lived experience of abuse, and you just kind of shared a bit ago that your abuse was sexual abuse, sexual molestation. So if you can go into a little bit more details just about your story, what you feel comfortable sharing with the world, and can you share with us your mental and emotional battle that you went through during those times?
Oh, wow. Excuse me. Well, again, the experience was molestation at the hands of a relative who was in the home.
Okay.
And at first, I didn't have language for it because I was so young. I didn't know whether or not it was something that was normal, whether or not it was something that should be happening, but I do know that I felt uncomfortable.
Okay.
However, because I was not reared in an environment that promoted initiating conversations with adults,
Okay.
I didn't know how to talk about it.
Okay.
And that's unfortunately what happens a lot of times in the home. Especially, I can only talk about the community that I'm in, of course, the Black community, because, we're told to stay in a child's place and that children are to be seen and not heard.
That's
and
right.
Don't be in grown folks' business or conversations with grown-ups and things like that. So what that does is it kind of muzzles us as kids to where when something is happening, we don't feel like we have a safe space or a safe place to go and talk about things that made us feel uncomfortable.
Right.
And so we continue to just hide it, harbor it, and internalize it, and then it becomes a part of who we are. And it begins to manifest itself in our character down through the years. It begins to manifest itself in our personality.
Right.
It begins to manifest itself in our behaviors. And that's what I experienced. I experienced the manifestation in the character, the personality, and the behavior. So, I had gone through a space where I didn't care about life. I didn't care about my life. I didn't care about the life of others on the outside.
Okay.
But really on the inside, I was a caring individual, but I felt like I couldn't share that or be that person because I didn't want to be taken advantage of.
Wow.
I had the personality deficits where I was absolutely rude and condescending, mean toward people for no reason. But it was because of everything that I was harboring on the inside, and it was... I went through so much mentally and emotionally. It really took the Lord to walk me back through it so that I could see what the problem was and how it was the plan of the enemy from the beginning to get me to a place of not trusting God.
Right. Wow.
Because he was the guy who did what he did. He exercised his free will.
Right.
And I was on the receiving end of him exercising his free will. Now, I could have hated all men. In fact, I ended up not liking women or not liking females because I was a female and I saw them as weak because I was weak as a female and I didn't have the power to stop this boy from doing what he was doing to me. So I wanted to turn myself into what I thought powerful was, and that was a boy. And as a result, I ended up being a tomboy. So I went through not only the character flaw, the personality flaw, and all this other stuff. I ended up with an identity crisis, It didn't go as far as liking women. It didn't go as far as that, but it just went as far as me wanting to be more around the boys, but look like them because I felt like if I look like them, they won't want me.
Yes, that makes so much sense.
Oh my God. I didn't know that until the Lord shared that with me, though.
It makes so much sense. And what you're saying, Maxine, is definitely the journey of somebody that has experienced trauma.
Wow.
And so as a trauma therapist, too often do I hear similar stories like yours where people go through periods of their life where they do lose their identity. They don't know who they are. And then also they experience so much emotional distress during the process that the thing to do is either you try to figure out a way to deal with it during the moment, right? Some people don't know how to deal with it because they don't even know exactly what they're feeling in the moment. And so sometimes people, they bury it, they push it to the side because they think like, okay, if I could just push this away, or if I could just bury this and forget about this, then I don't have to deal with whatever emotions that are associated with what happened to them. And you talked about a safe space. Now, a safe space is so important as we go through life, not just as children, as adults, but more so as children. And you talked about you being in a space where you felt powerless at some point.
I did.
And too often have I talked to my patients and my clients about when they lose their power. So a lot of times when people experience trauma at the hand of like somebody that was older than them, that took advantage of them, they were powerless during the time. And so if you think about it, you were taken advantage by somebody that had more power than you. And so a lot of times when that happens, people really take on the role of, I did something wrong because this person used their power to take advantage of me. And too often people don't see that you were vulnerable, or they were vulnerable in the moment where somebody that had more power than them took advantage of you because you were powerless in the moment. And so too often do I hear that. And just to hear you say how God was the one that came to you and helped you walk through this, which I'm sure was still a difficult journey to get through, because again, having to understand emotions and feelings and all the things that you experience, and at the same time, maybe not always having that tangible person that you can have a conversation with. So you talked about, taking on the role of, if I identify as a boy, or if I identify that I have the strength as a boy, that I'm getting the power, so people won't look at me as weak, so then nobody won't take advantage of me, right? And how did that work out for you?
Well, let's see. You know what? It worked out until it wasn't working.
Okay.
It worked out for a while. At least from the way I see it, it worked out for a while, because the goal was, again, for the boys that I was around would, see me as just one of the bros.
Right.
Right. And so the guys that I was around, they weren't into guys. So I felt like, okay, this is a safe place to be in, because it's not going to be that.
Right.
But with the guy who did what he did to me, it meant nothing, because it still seemed as though wherever I was, he always wanted to be and wanted to be next to me. So what I ended up doing was, although I have essentially tried to turn myself into this particular, type of individual, what I associated with power, this individual didn't see me that way. And so he still continued to chase. And I found myself still running.
Right.
Still running and trying to dodge him. With other places, it was fine. But with him, it wasn't. Oh, my God. Up until Grandma caught him. Up until Grandma, y'all got to read the book. Up until Grandma caught him. And when she caught him, and she beat him so bad. I had never, Niesha, been so excited to see somebody get beat in all my life.
Oh, wow.
If I could share that openly on the podcast. I had never been so excited, because I didn't know how to tell her what was going on.
Right.
I was afraid to initiate the conversation. And too often when young people come and they say that they're experiencing these things, they get blamed for it. So I didn't want to be told that it was my fault.
Right.
And then I was confused about the fact that the one who was supposed to be protecting me was the one I needed protection from.
Right.
How do you rationalize that at so long? I was so glad when she caught him.
Right.
But we never had a conversation about it.
Now, see, that was a question that I was getting ready to ask you, but I think you answered it, because I was going to ask you, because you talked about, to go back a little bit about, what stays in the house, what goes in the house stays in the house, and I know about that too. But I was going to ask you, do you remember the first time that you spoke up about what happened to you? So even though your grandma is the one that caught him, do you remember the first time that you actually told somebody yourself out of your mouth that I was molested?
It wasn't until I was grown.
Okay.
I carried that the whole time. When I say probably about 3 years before I started writing the book.
Wow.
That I carried that for over 30 years.
Right.
Nobody knew. My mom didn't know. My brother didn't know. My sister didn't know. Grandma knew, but we never talked about it. So I didn't even know how to, at the old age that I was, talk. I didn't even know how to come out and say, okay,
Right.
this is what happened to me.
Right.
I didn't even know how to initiate the conversation as an adult.
Right.
You know, and so the very first time, like I had mentioned some of it one night during Bible study. That was really like the first night, but it was so surface to the point where, I mean, it could have been just a story about anybody, something that I read or
Right.
seen on the internet, right?
Right.
And then I had shared some stuff with my mentor, with my first lady.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, by the grace of God, she shared some in her book, In Grace in Deep Waters.
Okay.
And so what that did was she had an event, and she said, okay, Maxine, you're going to talk about this chapter, the chapter that she had, you know, shared a piece of my story in.
Right.
And that day, that was in that might have been in 2021.
Wow.
That might have been in 2021, the very first time that I stood up public.
Wow.
And I talked about it in a room full of about 40 women.
Wow.
And I talked about it just from the standpoint of what she wrote in her book, because, you know, it was just, let's deal with this material here.
Right.
And I was able to share a little bit more, but it was the first time that I had done it. I felt so uncomfortable.
Wow.
I felt like, oh my God, like I'm literally telling all of these people this business that the enemy has told me for so long that I needed to keep inside. And it was so freeing,
right,
for me. And one of the women just bawled and just ran out and was like, I can't do this. And I was just like, oh my God, I didn't even realize how many people experienced what I experienced and how powerful talking about it was, or opening up about it was. And after I got done sharing my little 15 or 20 minutes of fame, or my little Easter speech, or whatever you want to call it, I went over into the corner, I sat in the chair, and I cried.
Wow.
I cried, and my husband came. Okay, I'm gonna try not to cry.
No, it's okay.
My husband came, and he just rubbed my back and was like, babe, it's okay.
Yes.
And so from then, I'm like, okay, that we gotta do this book.
Yes.
It has to happen, because there's too many people that's quiet.
Yes.
So if I have to be the voice, then I'll just be the voice until someone else gets the courage to use their own voice.
Yes. I am so glad that God used you to use your voice.
Yeah.
Because too often it is such a common theme that when people have experienced trauma, that they do not want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And there are so many reasons why people don't talk about things. A lot of it is because that it hurts to talk about the experience, right? It hurts to even start your healing journey from experience. And not only that, one of the things that you said that I tell people all the time in my therapy sessions is that when you be quiet, because that's what the enemy wants you to do, is that you officially enter into a battle with yourself and your mind. And most likely your mind gets the best of you, because when you do say something out open, like you mentioned, it's freeing. Because when you can release that, what you're holding on to, not only are you putting it out in the atmosphere, and you're not torturing yourself anymore from having to keep this thing a secret, that the enemy tries to trick us and suggest that, oh, you don't need to tell nobody because they don't believe you, they won't believe you, or either nobody will understand. That you're also putting out in the atmosphere for allowing an opportunity for somebody to comfort you, for somebody to hear your story and feel like, oh my God, I'm not the only person, right? So what does the Bible say? We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies. That's why it's so powerful. So powerful, so powerful. So when I hear you, when I ask the question about you first saying it out loud. So one of the things that I do with people when they're on their healing journey, or when they begin their healing journey, is to get them to say, I was molested, I was rejected, I was, taken advantage of, I was sexually abused, whatever the case may be. I was abused by my husband, whatever it is. And that is the hardest thing for people to do, is to say, this is what happened to me. And that is one of the most important things for people to do on their start of their healing journey. So if you can recall when you first said that out loud, you said it was free, you were able to say what you had to say. Did you get triggered when you started telling your story the first time?
Did I get triggered? No, because this isn't, I wasn't triggered like it bothered me. That didn't come until after I was writing the book.
Okay, because you were retelling your story officially.
Because I had to tap into those emotions and allow myself to feel what I felt as that young girl.
Right.
And not only allow myself to feel it, I had to now articulate it.
Right.
And so there are chapters in the book that I had no clue what was written until I read it.
Wow.
Because I'm like this and my face is full of tears.
Wow.
I can't see what I'm writing. The Lord is just feeding me and my fingers are just going.
Wow.
And so, people are like, oh, I want to read it too. Because I don't really know what the Lord was saying, because he was just downloading so much, and he was really washing me while I was typing.
Yes.
He was washing me while I was writing. I can remember it like it was yesterday, and my husband just looked at me and he just rubbed my leg.
Wow.
Because there's nothing really that you can do in the moment.
Right.
So I wasn't triggered initially when I started talking about it. Because I had already been crying out to God behind the scenes before this happened, you know?
Right.
And I feel as though, by the grace of God, that me doing this book was kind of like the last piece to the puzzle, in my journey of really overcoming. I'm continuing to be an overcomer.
That's right.
And that's the position that I'll stay in, and I'll refuse to allow the enemy to take me back somewhere where God brought me from.
Right.
But this piece was a big piece to the puzzle.
Right.
Because now I can say, this is what I was experiencing. This is what it made me feel like. This is how I responded. This is how it damaged me. And this is how the Lord repaired me. I didn't know that language at 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what to say.
Right.
My mind couldn't even conceptualize what had taken place.
Right.
And so to go back to that place, that you said it hurts to heal.
It hurts to heal.
And when I tell you, I was like, God, what is happening?
Yes.
What is going on?
Right.
Why am I experiencing this? Why am I feeling this? But I realized that I had to experience it, and I had to feel it in order to articulate it.
Yes.
So somebody else can get it.
Yes. And that is such an instrumental piece and part of the healing process that people do not understand. So for y'all that don't know, this upcoming conference that I have, It Hurts to Heal, stemmed from the conversation that you and I and First Lady were having. So remember, First Lady was like, oh, you need to have a conference. I laughed it off because I'm like, I don't got time to be having no conference. Like, it sounds good. But then the Lord started dealing with me.
Wow.
And I know it's God ordained because everything has just been aligning. I didn't have no idea. But needless to say is that just the way that you kind of explained the process that you went through, just how God did that for you and took you through that process, is the same process that I take people through in therapy.
Wow.
Because again, it is so profound for people to feel those emotions.
Yeah.
Because when you are in the midst of experiencing trauma or traumas, you sometimes cannot put a name and identify what you're experiencing, how you're feeling. You just know that something's going on in your body and you don't really know what it is, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes I tell people that our emotions are bodily experiences, meaning that anything that we go through, we feel in our body. Just like if a person was sick, your body tells you that I don't feel good. So if your head starts hurting, you know that I need to go to the doctor. Or either if your stomach starts hurting, oh, I must have eaten something or I'm getting a virus. Same thing with mental and emotional health, that anytime you're experiencing anxiety, depression, you are going to feel it in your body. When you experience anger, that is an emotion. You feel that in your body. And so one of the things that I do with my trauma work with people is that first and foremost, like I mentioned, have people to say out loud what they experience. Then I have them do this project where I make them do a trauma timeline, and I have them write down everything that happened to them, and we get together and we go through their timeline. And it's so interesting because when I have people do it, they start remembering things that were lying dormant and that they pushed to the side. So just the way that you explain how God took you through the process of identifying, talking about it, identifying those emotions, and then figuring out, connecting the dots of why I was behaving this way. This contributed to that. Same thing.
Wow.
So look at God. Look at God. And let me tell you, even in that process, that just came to me one day in my therapy session when I start working with people. And I've been doing it ever since to all of the people that I deal with that have trauma. And when I say it is so profound to just see how, again, talking about your life story, freeing yourself, how freeing it is to look at yourself from a different light. So when I kind of think about just trauma, you know, and just things, when people have experienced some form of trauma, whatever it may be, the word victim kind of just is out there.
Yeah.
So how does the word victim resonate with you?
It don't.
Okay. Expand on that.
It don't.
Okay, expand on that.
Because I experienced what I experienced again at the hands of someone exercising their free will.
Okay.
I was on the receiving end of it.
Okay.
It could have been anybody else.
Right.
So, hey, it happened.
Right.
So, a victim? Nah, I had an experience.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
Okay.
I refuse to I refuse to allow myself to be in a space where, you know, I'm pitying myself or I'm feeling down and out and oh my God, woe is me, this happened and all of that. Victim? No. Victor? Absolutely.
Yes,
Overcomer?
yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
Victorious?
yes.
Absolutely.
That's right.
That was a bump in the road on my journey. And it's okay because look at where it brought me to.
Right.
Look
right.
at where it brought me to. So no, victim don't resonate with me.
Okay,
I'm an overcomer.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So what could you tell somebody that, because oftentimes people live in the victim mentality, again, because they don't know how to make sense of all of the things that have happened to them. And when people have experienced complex trauma, which just means that they've experienced multiple kinds of trauma, that they don't know how to make sense of it. So if you could talk to somebody and tell them about not owning that victim mentality, or how do they shift from identifying as a victim, what would you say?
Well, the pivotal point in my life was my encounters with God in prayer. And I believe personally that was the defining moments in my life.
Okay.
Because I was able to cry out to God because I didn't want to go to a therapist. I didn't think I needed a therapist. Pride wouldn't let me go to a therapist because in my mind, I'm all right. However, these things keep showing up in my life.
Right.
So if you ain't going to go to the therapist because of pride or because you've been taught something or whatever, you better go to God.
Right.
And so I went to God.
Right.
I didn't even know that I needed to go to God because like you talked about earlier, I didn't talk about it.
Right.
I brushed it off. I put it to the side until the Lord started dealing with me a couple of years ago.
Right.
And, you know, I remember, Niesha, I used to work, I used to drive back and forth to Tehachapi because I was also a licensed real estate agent.
Okay.
Amen.
That's
and
right.
so I
That's
would
right.
sit in the sales community, in the community up there in Tehachapi where we were building at the construction company that I was running.
Okay.
And so I had nothing but time there. So all I would do was just be in the Word. Okay, God, what is this? And everything in me, God, that's not like you. Bring it up. What is it that we need to deal with?
Right.
And so at first it was difficult to even talk to God about it because I didn't know how to initiate conversations concerning what I experienced.
Right.
But it was easier for me to talk to him than it was to talk to somebody else because God ain't gonna judge me.
Right.
But the people gonna look at me crazy, and I didn't want people to be like, you know, oh girl, ain't nothing wrong with you, because this is the kind of stuff that people say. Nothing wrong with you. Oh, that didn't happen to you. You sure you wasn't just being fast? You didn't ask for that. You didn't want that. You wasn't walking around half naked. You know what I mean? The stuff that people say. Victim shaming. So I had to go to God about it. And when I started going to God about it and started talking about it, he began to do the work.
Yes.
So what would I tell someone? If you're not going to talk to a therapist, talk to God.
Right.
But you got to talk to somebody. If you don't want to talk to God about it, start writing.
Right, absolutely.
Get it out.
Right.
Whatever you do, get it out. However you get it out.
Right.
Get it out. If you're going to write it out, sing it out, pray it out, cry it out, talk it out, just get it out. Because there's more room outside of you than there is on the inside of you.
Right.
And listen, pressure will bust a pipe.
Right.
You get too much pressure in there, no matter what the pipe is made of. At some point, it's gonna get
bust.
wicked. It's gonna bust.
Yes.
So you gotta get it out.
Right.
Some way, shape, form, or fashion, you gotta get it out.
Right.
You cannot hold that in.
You can't.
Hold it
I
in.
wholeheartedly believe that, and I tell people that all the time. There's only so much of pushing away that you can do, because it can lie dormant for a period of time, but you better believe it's going to resurface at some point.
Because something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Something's going to trigger
stir
you.
it
You're
up.
going to see something.
Yes.
And boom, you're like a ticking time bomb.
Yes.
And that's how I was. I was literally a ticking time bomb.
Wow.
And so that's how my behaviors manifested in fighting. It's in the book. That's how I dealt with stuff, because I didn't know how else to deal with it. And so when I was triggered about whatever, the solution was, see me in the grass. But we don't fight no
catch
more.
These hands.
No,
catch these hands.
And that's what, for years.
Yes.
4 years, until God says, okay, you know what? That ain't gonna work.
Right.
You got to do something different.
Right.
I remember I was talking about going up there to the sales thing to atrophy. The Lord told me one day, he says, I'm gonna take you through something. And he says, and it's gonna hurt. But I need you to go on the fast for 3 days. I said, okay. And okay, God. And so he starts pulling all of this stuff out of me that I didn't know was in there, because I had buried it so deep for so long. Right. And I remember, and he told me to record it. So I recorded it on the phone, but I haven't been able to go listen to it. But he said record it, and I'm talking and I'm crying and I'm driving. I know it was nobody but God, because I couldn't even see driving down the mountain.
Wow.
So, and I remember I got to a point where my flesh got weak, and I'm like, God, I'm so hungry. I just have a cracker. And the Lord said, do you want to be delivered or do you want to eat? I said, Lord, I want to be delivered. And so I continued on that 3-day journey. And I remember, at the end of it, I let out this scream. Like I never heard before. And I just bawled my eyes out. And the Lord said, if I had allowed you to die in that state, you would have went to hell.
Wow.
So
That's powerful.
We gotta get it out. We gotta get it
absolutely.
out. And we gotta forgive the one who did it.
Right. And that's a whole nother conversation.
We gotta forgive.
It's a whole nother conversation and topic. Yes.
It's in the book. Can I just share this one piece?
Go ahead.
Because he reminded me that the blood was for them too.
Right. It was. It
was for them too.
Yes.
But that's a different.
It is. I mean,
it was a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, it is.
It was very hard.
I agree with you. I remember I heard somebody say that, when it comes to trauma, and especially when somebody violated you because they were more powerful than you, trying to tell somebody to forgive that person in the moment is a hard thing to tell them.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what they have to deal with mentally to have to ask them to forgive somebody that took advantage of them because they were more powerful than them, more powerful. They took advantage of the powerless. Yeah. And so I tell people you got to forgive at whatever God tells you to do. Yeah. Because again, if I say, you got to forgive, you do have to forgive because the Bible says it. Yeah. But for me to tell somebody how to forgive somebody, I cannot do that. Right. I do walk people on the path of learning how to forgive themselves. Yeah. Because that's a big part of it. Mm-hmm. Because again, a lot of people take the blame and they take on the identity and they take ownership of things that don't belong to them. Right. That they've accepted from the person that abused them or violated them. But forgiveness is a hard thing to do.
You know what?
It's
really,
a hard
really
thing
is.
to do for people when somebody has been taking advantage of them.
It is.
And so can you just talk about forgiveness? How did you get to the place where you were able to forgive?
It wasn't easy.
Okay.
Because in my mind, what he had done to me didn't deserve forgiveness. Mm-hmm. So I made that call. Okay. But that wasn't a call for me to make. Right. So when I say, you got to forgive because the blood was for them too, that's God talking to me at this point in my life. Okay. Not then. Right. And in my mind, I had forgiven because I swept it under the rug and hadn't really dealt with it. But still everything else was still manifesting. Right. And so I still see this person. Wow. And when I see this person, I'm on high alert because I'm looking for the kids.
Right.
And now when the kids leave and he leave, well, I'm leaving too because I'm trying to make sure you're not doing the same thing to these kids that you did to me.
Right.
You know, and it was very, very difficult, but it was something that I had to do by faith.
Right.
I remember when I got a call, my mom said, pray for your cousin. He in the hospital. Mm-hmm. He got COVID. I said, that's tough.
Was that your abuser?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But I had said I'd forgiven him. Mm-hmm. I had gone to him like God said and told him what God told me to tell him. I remember what you did to me.
Wow.
I forgive you and I love you. And gave him a hug. And I was sincere.
Wow.
But when it came up, pray for him, I said, oh, that's tough.
Wow.
And then, because this is what we do. I'm telling you, because I walked through it. And then when I started praying, I was like, oh God, you know, deliver him, Lord, heal him and set him free. And the Lord said,
It wasn't sincere.
Wow. You pray for him like you would pray for somebody else.
Wow.
And my prayer had to shift.
Wow.
It had to come from the heart. And I said, God, if he ain't going to see your face in peace, don't take his life.
Wow.
So it had to shift in me though.
Right.
But it had to be God doing it because the flesh didn't want to do it.
Right.
The flesh didn't want to do it.
Right.
And then when his mom passed away, guess who they called to minister at the funeral? Guess whose shoulder he was crying on?
Wow.
The same one.
Wow.
This I'm talking about walking through it. Like I'm like, I have to hug and console.
Right. That's
the
deep.
man who caused me so much pain.
Yeah, that's deep.
And brought me so many tears.
Yes, that's deep.
In my life.
That's deep.
I was like, okay, God, what are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
And then when he passed away, because he just passed away not that long ago.
Wow.
Guess who they called because they didn't have enough money for the cremation?
Wow.
I said, God, I'm not giving them a dime.
Wow.
This is what I was going through.
Right.
And the Lord said, no. No, ma'am.
Right.
No, absolutely. You will not be like that.
Wow.
So it's not easy.
It's not.
It's very much easier said than done.
It is very much so.
It takes intentionality.
Right.
And not allowing the enemy to keep you in a place of unforgiveness. So it's choosing to forgive and then staying in that space because it's easy to fall out of it.
Yes, it's easy
absolutely. to go back and say, nah, I'm withdrawing my forgiveness. So it's by faith.
Right.
That's the only way that it's going to work.
Right.
And God, you're going to have to help me do this.
Right.
Because I can't.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
You got to do this through me, God, because me...
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because again, forgiveness is not easy. So, like I said, we can have a whole nother episode just about forgiveness and not forgiving people and forgiving people.
Yeah.
One of the things that I will say about unforgiveness is that people don't really realize how much unforgiveness affects you.
Yeah.
And so it does start with internal. You have to forgive yourself. You also have to forgive others when you get to that point. Like you said, I can tell people, oh, forgive them. But again, who am I to say you have to forgive them today when that's a journey that a person has to take on their own, right? And it was a journey, like you mentioned, right?
It was a
so
journey.
It definitely starts with intentionality, like you said, and learning how to forgive yourself and relinquish the guilt and the ownership that a person have accepted of things that don't belong to them.
And also the guilt that other people put on you.
Yes,
because you don't forgive when they think you should.
Right.
Because even after he passed away, sis, when it was time for the funeral, now I did obey God and give because me and my husband had the means to do so, and there was a need.
Right.
So it was beyond what happened to me. It was about meeting a need. Okay.
Right.
Cool. But then it came time to go to the funeral, and I wasn't going, and I didn't go.
Right.
And I would not allow the enemy to make me feel bad for not going.
Right.
But here's what happened. Because I received the text, hey, the funeral is at such and such time, I ain't going. You know, so I didn't really care, right?
Right.
And so then it came a phone call. Oh, the funeral is at such and such time. Okay, cool. Y'all go and enjoy the family. I won't be there. Well, what you mean you ain't gonna be there? I said I'm not going.
Right.
Well, you're supposed to forgive and you did it.
Right.
And go off on you because people will get mad at you because you don't do what they think you should do.
Right.
And went off on me.
Right.
And I said, you know what? I have forgiven, but forgiveness don't mean that I got to go to the funeral.
That's right. That's right.
And I refuse to allow the devil to make me feel bad.
Right.
Because I made a decision not to go.
Right.
I know I'm forgiven.
Right.
But I ain't going to that funeral.
Right.
Feel how you want to feel.
Right.
And so I had to walk through that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, God, are you serious right now? Like, what's really going on? And I got off the phone. I was so upset. I called my husband crying. I said, honey, you ain't going to believe what just happened. And I told him the story, and he was just like, you know what? Let's go to breakfast.
Wow.
Let's just go to breakfast.
Aww.
Let's just go get something to eat.
Yes.
And we'll deal with whatever else we need to deal with later.
Wow.
You don't have to go.
You don't.
It's okay. Because I forgave, that don't mean I got to show up at the funeral. That don't mean I got to be at your gravesite. That don't mean I don't have to do all of that, because that's not what forgiveness says.
That's right.
I have to do.
Right. That's
and if
true.
my heart ain't in it, I don't want to go anyway, because it's not sincere.
Right.
Like the prayer.
Right. No, it's the truth. It's the truth. And I'm so glad that you said that, because again, in that instance, you set a boundary to protect your peace. And a lot of times when people try to set boundaries for themselves, they don't be consistent because of what you just said.
Yeah.
People call you and try to make you feel guilty and try to make you feel bad.
Yeah.
But the fact that you stood your ground, it didn't mean that you felt good because you stood your ground, but other people tried to make you feel guilty about you setting that boundary. But ultimately, you did what you needed to do to protect your peace, and there was nothing wrong with that, because setting a boundary does not mean, like you said, that you don't forgive. And it doesn't mean that you have to do something that you don't want to do. At all means, people have to protect their peace and, do what they feel that is going to be the best for them. So I love that you shared that. Okay.
And it doesn't mean that I was excited about the fact that he died.
No.
Because I wasn't.
Right.
He was still family.
Right.
I still knew him.
Right.
He did what he did, but I still knew him.
Right.
I still loved him.
Right.
Because he was my family. I grew up with him.
Right.
I wasn't excited about the fact that he died.
Right.
I was, in fact, hurt that he died, because at the end of the day, he's a soul.
Right.
He's still a soul.
Yes.
And so my concern was, Father, did he go and see your face in peace?
Right.
Beyond what he did.
Right.
Because my mindset was knowing that when we don't receive the Lord and when we reject, we spend eternity in damnation.
Right.
And my mindset was, and this is only by the grace of God, that even though he did what he did, even though he made me feel how he made me feel, hell was still too harsh of a punishment for him.
Right.
So I wasn't excited that he died.
Right.
I didn't feel good that he died. And I did not want him to end up in hell. Despite what he did. And that's what forgiveness looks like.
Yes.
Because I could have wanted the ultimate punishment.
Right.
But where does that leave my soul?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You got to deal with it. But this is a real conversation because ultimately it just makes me think about there's so many people that are dealing with so many things.
Yeah.
And to get to a place of forgiveness is not easy to do. And it's an individual journey. And again, there are some people that have done some really, really cruel and mean things to people in the world. And, some people don't believe in God, but if you're listening to this podcast, definitely, of course, I'm going to promote Jesus and a therapist too, because you need Jesus for sure, first and foremost. But it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist too to help you walk through things.
Absolutely.
But for those people that maybe listen to this podcast that don't know the Lord and don't even know, okay, how do I get to God and how do I have a conversation with him? I just want you to take a minute and just listen to Maxine's journey and how God walked her through her healing journey, and even if you don't believe in God, I just want to say, give him a try, because again, I definitely promote therapy, but I also promote Jesus first and foremost, and it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist too.
Absolutely.
So don't cancel him out, y'all. If you don't know God, don't cancel him out, because you definitely need him to get through these types of situations and to stay through them. So you kind of talked about how you became an overcomer. You talked about you're still overcoming. And so, Maxine, if you could look back, because we can keep going on and on, y'all. We got to have church in here. Y'all don't even know. If you could look back on your life and just look back on your journey that you went through and how God brought you through, what would you say, or do you feel like you wish that there was a resource or a person that was in your life that could have helped you to get to exposing your trauma a little bit sooner? Like, do you wish there was a resource for like young people back then, or do you just wish that you could have talked to somebody, share with a teacher or something like that? What do you, if you could look back on your journey and you could change maybe the trajectory of how things went, what would you change, or what would you hope that was there?
My dad.
Okay.
My dad. Because for a very long time, I believed that what happened because I was taken away from my dad. And so, okay, we ain't finna cry, Max. So that was
it's okay,
because he was my protection. He was my, everything. I was a daddy's girl, and I was ripped away from him. So he is the resource that I wish I could have had. You know what I mean? Had him there in those younger years. Although while I was staying with him, there was an initial introduction to molestation while I was in the house with my dad. But I believe, because that was just one isolated event,
right, that
had I stayed with my dad, the other stuff that took place when I left his safety and security would not have happened. Now, I don't know that to be for certain.
Right.
But because you asked the question,
right.
For me, the difference maker was leaving that safety net that I had as a young girl.
Right.
Being able to, have those affirmations.
Right.
Not being in a house where there's 14, 15 people in a 2-bedroom project.
Right.
And the only person there is grandma. So much, went unseen.
Right.
So many things slipped under the radar because there's no way that one person can manage that many people. Something is going to get missed.
Right.
Something is going to happen. Something's going to slip through the cracks.
Right.
And that's essentially what happened. I slipped through the cracks. I was overlooked.
Right.
I was missed, and the enemy saw an opportunity and he seized it.
Right.
So as far as somebody to talk to, I wish I would have had the conversation with grandma, because when that happened, it brought about other questions. Okay, who else did this happen to in the family? Is this a cycle?
Right.
Is this a generational thing?
Right.
Did it happen to you, grandma?
Right.
How did you deal with it if it did?
Right.
I couldn't even talk to my mom because she was on drugs at the time and not in a headspace where we could talk about it. But thank God that she's healed, delivered, and set free.
Amen.
And preaching the gospel now.
That's right. And she powerful, y'all, because I done heard her.
But then that wasn't the case.
Right.
So, Mom, did it happen to you? Ask my sister.
Right.
Did it you know what I mean? But again, because I did not have the ability to articulate what I was experiencing, I did not feel as though I could come and bring that to someone. I wish I just had somebody that I could have talked to, because it could have stopped. It didn't have to go on as long as it did.
Right.
I didn't have to feel like I was in a game of duck, duck, goose, and you the one tagging me all the time, and now I'm running from you. You know what I mean? Right. It didn't have to feel like that.
Right.
So somebody to talk to that could have put a stop to it before it happened as many times as it happened.
Right.
Did grandma come in? Yes, she did. Did she come in swinging? Absolutely. Was I excited? Yes. But how could we have prevented it from getting to that place?
Yes.
My solution: leave me with my daddy.
Right.
leave me with my daddy.
Right.
For all the daddy's girls that's listening.
You have such an amazing story. Like I said, y'all gotta get her book. I have started reading. I haven't read it all the way, but I am digging in already, and it's really good. And you have to get the book, and you have to read about becoming an overcomer, because again, the whole reason that we have this platform, that I have this platform, is to tell stories, because we all have a story. And like I mentioned earlier, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies. We have to tell our stories. We have to expose the enemy, because again, when we expose him, he cannot torment us anymore. And it leaves the opportunity for us to get help, for somebody to hear our story and come to us and say a kind word, or just lead us to that safe space. And a safe space is so important when we navigate through life. And so I'm just excited. Like, I'm excited, Maxine, we could go on and on and on. We can, because you know what, y'all, she got a word. And so we kind of wrapping up. But I'm just so excited about what God is doing for you. I've definitely seen the growth in you since I met you. And I've just seen how God has just continuously blessed you and anointing you. And on this journey, like, you definitely are on a journey to free other women that have experienced the same thing that you've been through. And like you said, giving the voice to the voiceless, because a lot of times people feel like they have to suffer in silence and that they have to be quiet. But one thing for sure is that God gave us a voice and we can use it, and our voice is powerful, because again, when we talk, we shame the devil and we silence him because he wants us to be silent.
And when we talk, we take back the power.
Yes, absolutely.
We take back the power.
Absolutely.
As long as we stay silent, the enemy is in control.
That's right.
But when we open our mouth and we begin to talk, we take back that power.
That's right.
And the more we talk about it, the more we feel that we are growing
releasing
in that, and that the enemy is shrinking.
Right.
Because, now what can you say? I done already told it, so you can't hold that over my head no more.
Right, absolutely.
You can't keep me bound with shame and embarrassment, because I done already put myself out there. It's almost like getting to the bully before the bully gets to you.
Right.
There's nothing that you can do now, because I've already showed the hand.
Right.
Now what you gonna say? What I already said?
Right.
You child.
Right. No, it's the truth. It's the truth. And I mean, it's so profound. Again, I can't stress it enough. Like, you wouldn't even imagine how many people I have talked to. Again, because as a trauma therapist, that's my focus, and I hear so many stories, and people have held on to things from childhood all the way till they became an adult. And sometimes I'm the first person that they've shared it with. And it is so hard to do the work, because again, if you go years and years and years of living with something that has been lying dormant inside of you, you know firsthand just like what a person can experience. Everybody's story is different. But again, having to deal with that and having to live with something that emotionally has shooken your world and has shaped the way that you view people and that you view the world, that when you finally get to a place to where I can release this, I can let this go, how freeing it is. And healing is not something that just it happens and boom, it's over. It's a continuous journey that goes on and on and on, because for sure life is gonna life. Things are gonna come up. You get re-triggered again when you've experienced trauma. But once you start and you heal from a different place and you begin your emotional healing, it's just that when you get re-triggered, your emotional distress is a little bit less than it was. So
absolutely.
We are definitely trying to get there. So as we wrap up, y'all, so one of the things that I like to leave the audience with just some hope. Because again, some people don't see that light, and the people that do see that light, sometimes the light is very dim. And so, Maxine, if you can tell somebody out there that is struggling with finding their voice, somebody that is struggling with finding their power, and somebody that is just struggling with going through their healing journey and finding and holding on to hope, what could you tell somebody out there that is struggling to find that hope?
The title of your podcast is Your Story Does Not Define You. I say I am not what happened to me.
That's right. I love it.
I don't. I'm not that.
Right.
That doesn't dictate who I am.
Right.
Finding your voice, start with just standing in the mirror.
Right.
And that was the hardest thing for me to do.
Right.
I had to stand in the mirror and look at myself and tell myself, you're not what happened to you.
Wow.
And I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it out. And I got so frustrated with myself. But that was a pivotal moment. You talk about a timeline, a healing timeline, a trauma time. That's on the timeline. Because I had to come to grips with the fact that, hey, that was an event that happened in your life, but it triggered a bunch of other stuff. Now we have to go back and undo the damage that was done, and we do so at the root.
Right.
Hope, you're not what happened to you.
Right.
You don't have to allow that thing to control you.
Right.
You don't have to allow that thing to overpower you, but you have to come to grips with the fact that yes, it happened.
Right. Right.
Yes, it hurt.
Right.
Yes, I have experienced this.
Right.
And yes, it made me feel like this.
Right.
But I don't have to stay feeling like this.
Right.
Get to a point where you realize that you choose how you feel.
That's right.
I choose how I feel.
Right.
I choose how I respond. I choose how I deal with things.
Right.
And the biggest hope is, hey, you're in control,
right.
even when you don't realize it.
Right.
The power is in your hands and it's in your mouth. Proverbs 18 and 21
yes,
says,
yes.
the power of life and death is in the tongue.
Yes.
So it's everything that you need is already in you. Despite what happened to you, what you need is already in you.
I love
and
that.
You just got to learn how to tap into what's in you.
Yes, I love
and
it.
You will be okay.
That's right. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Look, Maxine, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Thank you for
so
having
much.
me.
I appreciate you coming and gracing us with your presence today. But we cannot leave without telling people where do they go to get your book.
Well,
tell them where they can go purchase your book, y'all.
Well, the book is available, thank the Lord, wherever books are sold, audio book, ebook, paperback, anywhere books are sold. You can find me on Amazon. I'm in Barnes and Noble.
Yes.
I mean, just wherever. Thank the Lord for that. And it's still kind of surreal saying that. Like, I still be tripping off the fact that my face is on the book.
Yes,
right?
yes, her beautiful face is
that
on
my
the
face
book.
is on her book. I'm like, me? Okay, I'm just a little block chick.
It's
but my
amazing.
face is on the
It's
book.
amazing. It's an amazing feeling, girl. Take it all in. Take it all in.
I know. I remember telling you that, like, okay, wait a minute. It's a lot. Okay, I
girl,
gotta
take it
process.
all in.
So anywhere where books are sold, that would be the place to go. I would recommend going to ChristianLivingBooks.com.
Okay.
And going there on that website and getting the book, unless you're an Amazon Primer, and then you can just go there. But anywhere.
But she has a website, y'all, too,
I do
that you
have
can
a
order the
website.
book. So I'm gonna put it in the comments.
I do have a website where the books can be ordered. I only have a few in stock. That's why I didn't do that. If we were white, I don't want, in Jesus' name, prophesy, Max. I don't want a million of y'all to want to order my book through my website, and I don't have a million books on hand.
That's okay, but y'all, she on her way to being a #1 seller.
Yes, I am. But yes, you can. And if you do order through my website, youshallovercome.com, I will autograph the book and send it to you.
Yes, I love it. Look, y'all got to get the book. Y'all got to get the book. You got to hear her story. Maxine Henry, y'all, You Shall Overcome. Check out all the information and the details of this podcast. And as we wrap up today, one of the things I just want to leave you all with is that hope is something that we all can have. One thing that Maxine just stated a moment ago is that everything that you need already is inside of you. You just have to tap into it. And sometimes, to get there, you definitely need God. And you also can benefit from a therapist. So if you are in a space where you feel like you're about to give up hope, please keep holding on. See the light, even if it's as small as a pin. Just keep looking at the light until you get to the place where you want to be. So with that, y'all, thank you again for joining me here on Your Story Does Not Define You, the podcast. Dr. Niesha here, and I will be looking forward to talking to you all soon. Have a blessed one.